So just come down to lying on your mat or get into a seated position. And just slowly become aware of your breath. Maybe place your hands on your belly. Maybe place one hand on your chest. And just start to feel the rise of your belly on your inhale and the hollowing out of your belly on your exhale. Slowly start to arrive, become present with your breath. Try to let all your day's thoughts, feelings just melt away. Focus in on your breath. Feel your lungs and ribs expand out to the side on your inhale. And slowly start to consciously lengthen your inhale and lengthen your exhale. Inhale, reach your arms overhead and stretch out through your fingers and your toes. Maybe start to circle your wrists and roll your ankles in one direction and then the other. Slowly walk your ankles to the right side of your mat. Maybe cross one ankle over the other and bring your arms over to the right side of the mat. Stretch out through your left side body. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And come back to center. Stretch out through your fingers and your toes. Take a big morning stretch. And then slowly walk your feet over to the left side of your mat. Maybe cross one ankle over the other. And bring your arms over to the left side of your mat. Stretch out through your right side body. Breathe into the stretch. Try to keep your breath nice and smooth. And come back to center. Inhale your right knee in towards your chest. Hug it in. Keep your left hand on your right knee. Anchor your right arm down to a T. Drop your left knee over to your right knee over to the left side of your mat. Gaze over your right shoulder. Come into a supine twist. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. Feel the stretch in your right outer hip and your psoas. And come back to center. Hug your right knee into your chest and then extend it out long. Hug your left knee into your chest. Pause here. Keep your right hand on your left knee. Anchor your left arm out to a T and drop your left knee down to the right side of your mat. Gaze over your left shoulder. Come into a supine twist. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And bring your left knee back to center. Hug your left knee in and extend it out long. Hug both knees into your chest. Maybe rock side to side if that feels good. And then extend both feet towards the ceiling. Maybe start to point and flex your feet. You can rotate your ankles in one direction and then the other. Hug both knees into your chest and slowly rock up to a seated position. Bring both feet out in front of you. Come into staff pose. Ground down through your sitting bones. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Reach for the soles of your feet, your shins, or your hands can be down on the sides of your mat, your knees, wherever you feel comfortable. On each inhale, try to find a little more space. And on each exhale, sink in a little deeper. Stay with me for 3 more deep breaths. And slowly roll up. Bring both knees in towards your chest. Put your feet down flat on the mat. You can come back, bring your hands behind you. We're going to come into a seated figure 4. So you can stretch your right leg out and fold your right ankle over your left knee. You have the option to stay here. Your hands are behind you for support, or you can also bring your right hand and slowly push it on to your right knee. a little bit more of a balance here. If you push onto your knee, stay with me here for 3 deep breaths. Go ahead and release your hand and release your foot back down to the mat. Stretch your left leg out long. Go ahead and bring your left ankle over your right knee and come into a seated figure 4. Again, you can keep your hands behind you. Your fingers should be pointing towards the wall, away from your body. Or you can go ahead and bring your left hand to your left knee and apply a slight little bit of pressure to your left knee. Just enhancing that stretch in your left outer hip. Stay with me here for 3 more deep breaths. And release your hand and release your foot back down to the mat. Bring the soles of your feet together and sit up nice and tall, grounding down through your sitting bones. Make sure you move away any flesh that could be in the way. Sit up nice and tall. You can bring your hands to your ankles and inhale, exhale, bow forward. Bring your elbows out wide, chin away from your chest. Bow in. Stay here for 3 deep breaths. Sit up nice and tall. Close your knees together. Cross your shins and come into tabletop. Make sure your wrists are in line with your shoulders. Knees are in line with your hips. Bring your right foot behind you. You have the option to keep your left foot straight back here behind you and work your calf. You can stretch your calf down, your heel down towards the mat, and kind of pulse into it. Stay here and just give yourself a nice calf stretch. Or you have the option to raise that right foot off the mat. You have the option to stay here or extend your left arm out in front of you. Come into a spinal balance here. Hug in through your core. Find your strength and stability. We're here for 3 deep breaths. And go ahead and lower your hand and foot back down to the mat. Bring your knee back down, come into tabletop. Extend your left leg behind you. You have the option to try to lower that heel down. Just work into the calf here. You also have the option to lift that left leg high off the mat. Flex your left foot. Option to stay here or extend your right arm out in front of you. And come into spinal balance. Hug in through your core. Try to stay nice and stable here. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. And lower your hand down. Lower your knee back down, come into tabletop. Bring your knees out wide, big toes together. Sink back to child's pose. Rest your forehead on the mat. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And slowly come back to tabletop. We're going to set up for another spinal balance here. So again, you have the option just to extend your right leg behind you. You can go ahead and do those heel raises if you'd like, or you can lift that right leg high off the mat, extend your left arm out in front of you. You have the option to stay here or reach your left hand around and grab your right foot. Push that left foot into your right, push your hand into your foot. I'll try that again. And extend out. This turns into a nice shoulder stretch on the left side. We're balancing. Stay with me for 3 deep breaths. And lower down. Lower your hands down to the mat, put your knee back down. Come into tabletop. Extend your left leg out behind you. You can go ahead and just do a few heel raises here, or lift your left leg off the mat and bring your right arm out in front of you. Come into spinal balance. You also have the option to grab that right hand and reach for your left foot. Extend out, pushing the top of your foot into your hand, stretching out through your right shoulder. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And lower down, come back to tabletop. Bring your knees out wide, big toes together, sink your hips back, come into child's pose. Stay here for 3 deep breaths. Stay here in child's pose, but bring your hands together in prayer pose. Your forehead is still down on the mat. You can keep your hands here in front of you in prayer pose, or bring your thumbs towards your neck. Option to stay here or walk your elbows out in front of you. Stretch out. Stay here for 3 more cycles of breath. And release your hands back out in front of you. Slowly rise back up to tabletop. Drop your elbows down to the mat. Hands or palms are facing down on the mat. Your elbows should be in 90-degree angles. Tuck your toes. Slowly lift your hips up. We're coming into dolphin pose. You have the option to try to walk your feet in towards your body, or if that's too much, you can always walk your feet out further. Palms are face down on the mat. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. And go ahead and lower your knees down to the mat. Come back to tabletop. Slowly rise all the way up, coming up onto your knees. Knees are in line with your hips. Bring your hands to your sacrum, to your lower back. Squeeze your elbows in towards each other. Bring your shoulders together. Head up, chest out. Slowly push your hips forward. Sink your head back, come into camel pose. You have the option to stay here or reach your hands down for your heels. You can also just bring one hand down or both. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And if you brought your hands down to your heels, bring them back up to your sacrum. Slowly rise all the way up. Come back down to tabletop. Bring your knees out wide, big toes together, sink back to child's pose. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And slowly rise up to tabletop. Ground down through the palms of your hands. Tuck your toes. Slowly start to lift your knees off the mat. Sink your hips back. Come into down dog. This is your first down dog of the day. Go ahead and pedal your feet. Maybe come up onto the balls of your feet and try to sink your heels down lower. And inhale, lift your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Drop your left knee down to the mat. Untuck your left toes. Slowly drop your hips back. Peel your right toes off the mat. Come into runner stretch. Feel the stretch in your right hamstring. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And slowly start to lower your toes back down to the mat. Come back into a bend, come into crescent lunge. Bring your hands to your hips and extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. You should feel a stretch in your left hip flexor. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Bring your hands back down to frame your front foot. Keep your left palm on the ground. Bring your right hand to your hip or extend your right arm overhead. Twist open to the right side. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And bring your right hand back down to the mat. Tuck your left toes. Lift your left knee off the mat. Ground down through your hands and step back to down dog. Inhale your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through to low lunge. Lower your right knee down to the ground. Untuck your right toes. Slowly start to sink your hips back. Lift your left toes off the mat. Come into runner stretch. Bowing over that left leg. Feel a stretch in your left hamstring. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. Slowly start to bend into the left knee, lowering your left toes down to the mat. Rise up, bring your hands to your hips. Extend your arms overhead. Come into crescent lunge. Feel the stretch in your right hip flexor. Try to stay nice and tall through your spine, shoulders away from the ears. We're here for 2 more breaths. And bring your hands back down to frame your front foot. Keep your right hand on the mat. Bring your left hand to your hip or extend your left arm overhead. Into crescent lunge twist to the left side. Gaze can be over your left fingers or straight out in front of you. Stay here for 2 more cycles of breath. And bring your left hand back down to the mat. Tuck your right toes, lift your knee off the mat, ground down through your hands, and step back to down dog. Inhale, lift your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through your feet and slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead. Bring your hands together overhead. Point your fingers pointing towards the ceiling. All other fingers are interlaced. Inhale, grow nice and tall through your spine. And on your exhale, slowly start to draw your fingers over towards the right side of your mat. Stretch out through your left side body. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And come back to the center. Bring your hands to your hips. Stay nice and tall. Extend your arms overhead. Anchor your left foot down, spin open, come into warrior 2. Right knee is tracking towards your little toe. Your arms are out to a T, shoulders are away from your ears. Stay here for 2 deep breaths. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Try to reach that left hand down your leg. Stay nice and tall. Feel the stretch in your right side body. And rise back up to warrior 2. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Step back to down dog. Lift your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Bring your hands to your hips and slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Bring your palms together, interlace your fingers pointing towards the sky. Inhale, grow nice and tall. And on your exhale, draw your fingers over towards the left side of your mat. Stretch out through your right side body. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And come back to center. Bring your hands to your hips. Stay here for a deep breath in and extend your arms overhead. Anchor your right heel down to the mat. Come into warrior two. Left knee tracking over towards your left pinky toe. Your left heel should be in line with the middle of your right foot or your heel. Arms are out to a T. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Step back to down dog. Walk your feet to your hands to your feet. Bring your hands to your shins. Halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Separate your feet hip width. Bring your palms of your hands to the soles of your feet. Top of your hands are down on the mat. Toes should be into your wrists. Spine long, halfway lift. And exhale, fold forward, come into Padangusthasana. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And release your hands. Slowly rise all the way up to mountain pose. Bring your hands to heart center. Just take a moment to breathe here. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Separate your feet wide. Come in to bring your feet to the edges of your mat. Your heels should be in towards each other, toes out wide. You're going to slowly sink down, come into Malasana squat. Your elbows are pushing into your knees pushing into your elbows. If this is uncomfortable for you, you can back it off. You can bring a blanket over and place it under your heels, or you can, if you want to go further than this, you can also go into crow pose. This is your practice, so you have options here. We're going to stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Bring your hands back down to the mat. Slowly rise all the way up. Heel toe your feet together. Inhale, bring your hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. And step back to down dog. Inhale, reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead. Anchor your left heel down, spin open to warrior two. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Start to straighten your front leg, hinge at your hips, and reach for your shin or the mat. Come into triangle pose. Stack your shoulders. Should feel nice and tall through the left hand. Bend your front knee, ground down through the soles of your feet, and slowly rise back up to warrior two. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel, step back to down dog. Push forward to plank. You have the option to lower down here. We're gonna come into cobra or up dog, come back to down dog, or you can just stay in down dog, totally up to you. But if we're gonna lower down, inhale, come into cobra or up dog, tuck your toes, come back to down dog. Lift your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Sit up nice and tall. Spin your left heel down, come into warrior two. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Straighten your left leg, hinge at your hips. Reach down for your shin or the floor, come into triangle pose. Stay here, stack your shoulders. Remember to breathe. Bend into the left knee, ground down through the soles of your feet and slowly rise back up to warrior two. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel, step back to down dog. Walk your hands to your feet to your hands. Fold forward. Inhale, hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Stay here. Breathe. Bring your big toes together. Bring your heels about a fist width apart. So if you can put your fists between your heels, that's good. We're gonna come into chair pose. So slowly sink your hips down. Your hands can be at heart center. They can be straight out in front of you or overhead. Just remember that your arms are in line with your ears if they're overhead and shoulders are away from your ears. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And go ahead and release, fold forward. Inhale, hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Bring your big toes together. Heels are a fist width apart. Slowly sink your hips back, come into chair pose. Hands at heart center. Inhale, grow nice and tall through your spine. And exhale, hook your left elbow on the outside edge of your right knee. Come into chair twist. Option to stay here, or you can drop your left hand to the mat, right arm to the sky. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. And release, bow forward. Inhale, hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. One more time here. Bring your big toes together, heels slightly apart. Slowly start to sink your hips back. Inhale, grow nice and tall through your spine. Exhale, hook your right elbow on the outside edge of your left knee. Come into chair twist. Remember to sink your hips back. Your knees should not come over your toes. You have the option to drop your right hand to the mat, left arm overhead, or bring your hands at heart center. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And release, bow forward. Inhale, hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. We're gonna come into dancer's pose. There's a few options here. So if you can stay wherever you want on this journey, it's your practice. So if all you wanna do tonight is bend your right knee and capture your right knee with your right hand, bring your hand to the inside of your right foot, you can do that. You also have the option to extend your left arm overhead. Also have the option to start to hinge forward, kick that right foot back, extend your left arm out in front of you, come into dancer's pose. Ground down, feel strong through that left foot. Stay here for 3 deep breaths. And slowly rise back up. Release your foot back down to the mat. Bring your arm down. Capture your left foot with your left hand, inside edge. Option to stay here. You can also extend your arm overhead, your right arm overhead. Staying here is perfectly fine. Or you have the option to slowly hinge forward, kick that left foot into the palm of your left hand, right arm out in front of you. Find a focal point. Stay nice and tall and strong through that right foot. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Just remember, sometimes it's windy outside and sometimes it's windy inside. Honor where you are today. And slowly rise back up. Release your left foot. Bring your right hand down. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Ground your palms down on the mat. Step back to down dog. Inhale, your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead. Spin off your left foot, come into warrior 2. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Slowly rise back up to warrior 2. Bend your right elbow, place it on your right knee. Extend your left arm overhead. Come into extended side angle. You have the option to stay here, or you can drop your right hand to the mat or take a bind. We're here for 3 deep breaths. And slowly rise back up to warrior 2. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Step back to down dog. Lift your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead. Anchor your right foot down. Spin open to warrior 2. Flip your front palm. Reverse your warrior. Slowly rise back up to warrior 2. Bend your left elbow, place it on your left knee. Extend your right arm overhead. Come into extended side angle. You have the option to stay here or drop your left hand down to the mat, right arm overhead, or take a bind. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. And slowly rise back up to warrior 2. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Step back to down dog. Lift your right leg high in the air. Exhale, bring your right knee to your left elbow, cross your body. And come back to 3-legged dog. Bring your right knee to your right nose. And push back to 3-legged dog. Bring your right foot to the outside edge of your right hand. You can stay here. We're going to be in lizard pose. There's a few variations you can take. You could stay here. This is perfectly fine if you want to keep your knee off the mat, stay on your hands, or you can drop your left knee down. You can stay here, or you can lower your elbows down to the mat. Your knee is hugging in towards your right shoulder, or you can come onto the outside edge of your right foot and splay your knee out to the side. Soften in. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. You can come up onto your hands if you drop down to your elbows. Tuck your left toe, bring your left knee off the mat, ground down through your hands, and step back to down dog. Go ahead and pedal your feet, shake your hips out, and then settle into down dog. Extend your left leg high in the air. Bring your left knee to your right elbow and push back to 3-legged dog. Bring your left knee to your nose and push back to 3-legged dog. Bring your left foot to the outside edge of your left hand, set up for lizard pose. Option to keep your knee off the mat or drop your right knee down to the mat. Option to stay here or bring your elbows down to the mat. If you have a block, you could also put a block under your elbows. You have the option to keep your knee hugging in towards your left shoulder or roll onto the outside edge of your left foot Splay your knee out to the side. Soften in. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. Come up onto the palms of your hands. Peel your right knee off the mat and step back to down dog. Go ahead and shake out your hips and lower your knees back down to the mat. Come into tabletop. Bring your knees out wide, big toes together. Sink back to child's pose. Bring your forehead to the mat. Extend your arms out in front of you. Take a few slow, deep breaths here. And slowly rise back up to tabletop. From tabletop, slowly rise up. Bring your hands to your hips. Come up onto your knees. Extend your right leg out to the side. Toes can be pointing towards the short side of your mat or the long. Bring your hands to your hips. Stay nice and tall. Slowly start to walk your right hand down your right leg. Left hand can stay on your hip or extend overhead. Bring it over your ear. Stretch out through your left side body. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Bring your left hand back down to your hip. Slowly rise all the way up to center. Place your right hand or your left hand on the mat. Extend your right arm overhead. Stretch out through the right side body. Gaze can be up towards the ceiling. Heart open. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. Bring your right hand back down to your hip. Slowly start to rise back up. Bring your right knee down to meet your left. Extend your left leg out to the side. Your toes can be pointing towards the long side of the mat or the short. Slowly start to walk your left hand down your leg, maybe resting your hand on your shin. Extend your right arm overhead. Bring it over your ear. Gaze up towards the ceiling. Settle in. We're here for 2 more cycles of breath. Bring your right hand down to your hip. Slowly rise back up. Bring your right hand down to the mat. Extend your left arm overhead, bringing it in line with your ear. Stretch out through the left side body. Feel nice and tall through your hand. Feel your body elongate. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And slowly rise back up to center. Place your left knee on the mat. Find your way to an easy seated position. Interlace your fingers behind you. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Sit up nice and tall. And slowly lift your hands up towards the ceiling. Bow forward. Make sure your chin is away from your chest. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And slowly rise back up. Release your hands and place your hands on your knees. Make sure you're grounded down through your sit bones. Sit up nice and tall. And on your next inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your right hand behind you, left arm in front of you. Twist open to the right side. Your left hand can be on the mat in front of you or on your right knee. On each inhale, grow nice and tall through your spine. And on each exhale, twist a little deeper. And come back to center. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, drop your left hand behind you, right hand in front of you. Twist open to the left side. Your right hand can stay on the mat, or you can place it on your left knee. On each inhale, grow nice and tall through your crown. And on each exhale, twist a little deeper. And come back to center. Bring the soles of your feet to the mat, knees pointing towards the ceiling. And slowly lower all the way down to a supine position. Bring the soles of your feet together, drop your knees out wide, come into reclined butterfly. You can bring one hand to your belly and one hand to your heart. Just slowly start to notice any shifts in how you're feeling today, any shifts in tension or your breath. And just settle in here for a few deep breaths. Bring your hands to the outside edge of your knees. Close your knees together like a book. Bring your soles of your feet back down to the mat. Make sure your ankles are in line with your knees. Bring your hands down next to your hips. Ground down through the soles of your feet. And slowly lift your hips off the mat. Come into bridge pose. Tighten your glutes. Push up through your hips. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And slowly lower down one vertebra at a time, bringing your hips down last. Go ahead and windshield wiper your knees from side to side. And come back to stillness in the middle. You have the option to take another bridge, just as we did here. You could also take a restorative bridge, placing a block under your sacrum if you have a block at home, or you can come into wheel if that's in your practice. So go ahead and set up, ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly lift your hips off the mat. Tighten your glutes. Feel nice and strong through the soles of your feet. If you're in bridge, you also have the option to interlace your fingers behind you, walk your shoulder blades together. Bring your shoulders and your chest into this bridge. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. Go ahead and slowly lower your hips down, one vertebrae at a time. Go ahead and windshield wiper your knees from side to side. Hug both knees into your chest. Go ahead and extend both feet towards the ceiling. Flip your palms up and into legs against the wall. Feel the weight of gravity working against your legs. You can stay here, or if you would like to take another inversion, you can go ahead and do so now. If you want to come into plow or shoulder stand, those are in your practice. I invite you to do those. Stay with me here for 3 more deep breaths. Hug your knees in towards your chest. Maybe rock side to side. Anchor your arms out to a T and slowly drop your knees over to the left side of the mat. Gaze over your right shoulder. Come into supine twist. And slowly lift your knees back to center. Pause in the middle. And drop your knees over to the right side of your mat. Gaze over your left shoulder. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And slowly bring your knees back to center. Go ahead and hug both knees into your chest and rock side to side. Maybe grab the outside edges of your feet and come into happy baby. At this time, if there's any asana you need to do to complete your practice today, I invite you to do so, or you can start to prepare for Shavasana. Maybe you want to rest your legs up against the wall. Maybe you want to put a bolster under your knees. You can take Shavasana from your side. Whatever you would like to do, you can hug your knees into your chest and then find your way into Shavasana. We will be here for about 6 minutes. So settle in, close your eyes, start to soften in, relax, become aware of your breath. If you started to have your thoughts wander, let that go. Draw your awareness back to your breath, back to your mat. slowly start to deepen your breath. Maybe invite movement into your fingers and to your toes. Maybe stretch your legs out and your arms overhead. Maybe hugging your knees into your chest before rolling over to your side. And make your way up to a seated position.